So welcome back to Coordinated Clinical Trials. My name is Steve Pope, and this week we're going to be talking about planning research. So as a clinical research coordinator, you're going to have a role in planning and managing the clinical trials that your site conducts. So the responsibilities that you're going to be involved in involve a wide range of tasks and ensure that everything runs smoothly and that it runs according to the trial protocol. So you'll be involved in the startup phase at your site to get everything ready so that you can begin conducting the trial. Because after all, the important thing is that you be successful in conducting the trial. That means that you're going to earn money for your site and for the trial, and you want the sponsor to also use you for additional trials. So you have a number of incentives to take the planning process as seriously as possible. So let's take a look at our learning objectives for the lesson. We're going to discuss the clinical trial planning and preparation process at a clinical site. We're going to cite the tasks to perform in setting up a clinical trial at your site, define the regulatory requirements that sites must follow while conducting the trial, and we're going to have a practical exercise in setting up the trial. And then finally, we're going to identify key resources needed for clinical trial preparation. So let's take a look at the elements of research planning. So first, we've got the study feasibility and budgeting. You want to make sure that you allow enough dollars in the startup phase to complete these tasks. Secondly, you've got protocol and regulatory preparation. You've got training and communication. You have plans for subject recruitment and consent, also for data management tasks that you're going to be required to do, and also for ongoing compliance. So I'm going to go over each of these, so we'll discuss them in a little bit more detail. So let's talk about study feasibility and budgeting. As the coordinator, you're going to work with the PI to assess the feasibility of a study, which includes evaluating the protocol, what resources are going to be needed, and potential risks and challenges. So you want to make sure that you're certain that your trial, that your site can conduct the trial, so you don't want to get too far over your head. So this is where your PI can play a very key role in helping you understand what's necessary, what the potential pitfalls might be for this trial, and how you can be successful. So they'll be a good resource, so lean on them for help in that area. You're also going to prepare a budget that's going to show what you think your projected costs are going to be and what you imagine are going to be your expenses associated with the trial. So in your coordinator role, you're going to review the clinical protocol and assess what study procedures you're going to perform at each study visit, what the inclusion/exclusion criteria is going to be. That's going to help determine how successful you're going to be in recruiting subjects. And you're also going to look for any confidentiality issues. You're also going to prepare the necessary regulatory documents that are required of the site. So these may be a little bit different depending upon what the nature of the trial is. So you're probably going to be the first person other than the PI to receive that protocol and start taking a look at it. And you're going to have plenty of time to devour that and determine what areas you need to be concerned about at your site in order to be successful. So as part of the protocol and regulatory preparation, you're going to start to compile all the regulatory documents that are going to be required that we have gone over in the assessment of the investigator site file module in this course. So these are going to be documents that you're familiar with. They're going to be IRB documents. They're going to be your 1572 forms, investigator's brochure, informed consent forms, personal CVs, medical license, GCP certificates. Most of these are going to be collected by the sponsor during the study startup phase. So you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort compiling all of this. So you need to make sure that you budget for that in your budget that you negotiate with the sponsor. You're also going to be required to store and update these documents as necessary. And then you're going to provide these to the sponsor during the study startup phase. You're also going to be involved in training and communication. So you're probably going to be the point person to make sure that all staff members are trained on the protocol and any special procedures that are associated with the study. You're also going to be involved to ensure that all staff members maintain their good clinical practice training certificates. That should be an ongoing process that you're involved in at your site. And you're going to be the first point of contact for the sponsor. They're probably going to be working with a CRO. We've talked about how to work with CROs. So you're going to become the point person at your site. You're going to be on a first name basis, probably with your CRA and with another study startup person before your site gets activated. So there's going to be a lot of information going back and forth between the site and the CRO and the sponsor. So let's talk about subject recruitment and consent. Most of you probably know by now that many trials fail because they fail to recruit adequate subjects for the trial. So you're going to have a firsthand role in the recruitment of subjects. So you may already have a database of subjects, maybe patients that your PI sees in his or her medical practice. So those could be a good source of patients. But you're going to have to develop and implement some sort of subject recruitment strategy. You're going to identify potential subjects, begin to screen subjects, and you're probably going to be involved in obtaining informed consent of those subjects. So a couple of strategies you may use. You may want to run ads advertising for subjects to participate in the trial. Bear in mind that any ad that you run has to be approved by your IRB. That also includes ads that you might put up on Facebook or other social media sites. Any scripts that you might use when contacting subjects. CRCs, they occasionally call subject or potential subjects on the phone and ask them if they're interested in participating in a trial. There are also AI tools out there that can search through your medical database and identify potential subjects. That's becoming more and more in use, and I'm seeing that a lot more and more at different sites. So these are areas that you're going to be involved in subject recruitment. There are also third-party companies that sponsors may use that can help you advertise for subjects, and so don't be afraid to use those if you feel like you need help. It's always better to over recruit than under recruit. It's easier to tell someone that they're not able to participate in a trial rather than not have enough subjects to meet the recruitment objectives. The next element is data management. So you're going to get very familiar with this. This is going to include entering data in the electronic data capture tool, the EDC tool, and also responding to and answering data queries, which you're going to get a lot of. In most trials, the sponsor is going to want you to enter data within 5 business days of when the subject came in for their visit. They're also going to want you to answer or respond to data queries within 5 business days. So this is something that you'll need to get into the habit of doing, of checking those probably at least every other day to see if any new queries popped up. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail a little further in our training in this course. Depending on what site you work at, you may be required to create some data source documents that might include visit data sheets, log pages for things like adverse event collection, concomitant medication collection, and medical history data. Some of these, if you're working in a hospital environment, you may be using an electronic medical record, but if you're at an independent site, what I like to refer to as mom and pop sites, they're probably not going to have an electronic medical record. So you're probably going to be working in paper. So you're going to be creating some of these documents, maybe using Microsoft Word, for instance. So it's important that you begin to understand the elements of that because that can go a long way towards increasing your compliance with what data is going to be collected. You're going to have to ensure data quality and integrity by using good data practices. So that goes hand in hand with creating quality source documents that not only document all of the data points that you're going to collect, but also other information as well. For example, header information that needs to include the subject ID on each page of that, because what's going to happen, you're going to use those pages to collect data on your subjects when they come in for their visits, and then you're going to provide that data to the monitor when they come out, because they're going to compare that with what you entered into the EDC database. So you want to make sure that those documents and those tools are as clear as possible and actually obtain all of the data that you're supposed to be collecting. You're also going to collect information on protocol deviations. So it's important when you're collecting the deviation data that you collect as much data as possible when that occurs. For instance, you want to collect the subject ID for the subject that the deviation occurred on. Most of your deviations will be associated with a specific study subject. So you want to collect that. You want to collect information on who was involved, if a procedure wasn't done, explain why it wasn't done. There could be a reasonable explanation for why a procedure wasn't done. Then you want to collect that and make that available, because that'll cut down on the number of queries that you may get in the future as the sponsor is starting to review those deviations. Another thing you want to do with data management tasks is to make sure you have adequate backup. So make sure there's a backup coordinator that's also trained on the data management tasks and can be your backup when you're not able to be there. Say, for instance, if you're on vacation, for instance, that person can respond to data queries or can enter data if necessary. And finally, we've got ongoing compliance. So couple of items here. You got to ensure that all regulatory requirements are performed and are up to date, such as your IRB submissions. That's going to be very important. You probably want to keep some type of spreadsheet log of when certain certain documents expire from your IRB, so that you can get those updated on a timely manner. And you also want to keep track of all communication from your IRB as well. Many of you are going to be working with central IRBs, which are for-profit companies. You're going to have access to their portal, where you're probably going to communicate with them via the portal more so than any other means. You're also going to be preparing for site audits. This is something that will come up from time to time. You may have sponsor audits. You may have regulatory inspections. Hopefully you don't have too many regulatory inspections, but sponsor audits are fairly routine, and you'll probably be given maybe 2 months notice on those. So you'll have plenty of time to get everything together and make sure it's ready for when the auditor comes out. And they'll tell you, what areas they want to talk about and what areas they want to focus on. And then finally, you're going to be ensuring that all documentation is current and up to date. So there are a lot of activities associated in the ongoing compliance piece of planning your research study. Your reading assignments for this lesson, you're going to look at chapter 8 in your textbook, which is going to be the chapter on pre-study, preparing for a study, and then chapter 9, protocols. So those chapters aren't very long. I think you can get through them pretty quickly. I've also included a document from Transcelerate that's going to be the completion instructions for the site signature and delegation of responsibilities log. And then finally, you've got an article from Applied Clinical Trials that discusses the importance of site selection. So these reading materials will amplify what I've gone over in this lecture and hopefully provide a little more detail into what we've learned so far. So for discussion forum assignment number 1, what I want you to do is use the Excel spreadsheet that's in Blackboard to complete the clinical trial budget. You'll do this by extending the unit price for each procedure into the cells for the subject visit that they correspond to. So these are on the schedule of events that's also in Blackboard. So pull that up, and then I've made it easy for you. So the cells that you're going to extend the unit prices in are shaded in yellow, so they're very easy to see. And then everything's going to calculate for you down at the bottom. You're going to get a cost estimate for what each item is going to cost, and then that's going to become your planning budget as you negotiate with the CRO or the sponsor during the study startup phase. So once you complete this, go ahead and look at the calculations, make sure everything looks right, and then post that completed spreadsheet on the discussion forum, and I'll take a look at it. For discussion forum assignment number 2, I want you to take the training and delegation log matrix that we talked about in week 3 and complete the blank site signature and duty delegation log. So the SSDDL log is in Word format with yellow cells for updating. So all you're doing, I've already populated the site staff at your site. So all you have to do is indicate which responsibilities the PI is delegating to that particular site staff. So use the Transcelerate document that I'll put out there to understand what each delegated task is, and then populate that in the cells that I've indicated on that form. You've also got a start and stop date. Obviously, the stop date will be blank. Go ahead and put the start date on there. You can use today's date, that's fine. So be sure that each task is delegated based on the staff member's education, training, and experience. As I said, I've already populated the staff members' names on the document, so you don't have to do that. But I do want you to spend some time to make sure you understand how each task is delegated, and that you don't delegate the wrong task to the wrong person. And then once you've done that, go ahead and post your assessment in the discussion forum. You can also ask any questions that you might have in the discussion forum as well. And I'll take a look at those and answer those for you. So good luck to you. Let me know if you have any difficulty on these tasks, but I think you'll find it to be a good real world activity and one that you're going to be involved in your role as a coordinator. So have fun with it, and I'll see you online.